It was almost a year ago that I was in the Blue Mountains with the intention of hiking Mount Solitary. On that occasion, I descended Kedumba Pass and stayed the night at the Kedumba River campground. But the heat was oppressive those few days and I decided to abandon the climb partway up, instead detouring back down across the river using a different route and then back out via the pass. It was still a great challenging hike all the same. So we're back. And this time we're doing the full Mount Solitary circuit over 3 days. That's roughly 33 kilometers total and over 2 kilometers elevation gain. Normally people do the circuit anti-clockwise, staying up on the mountain on the first night. But we're doing it a bit differently, going clockwise and knocking out the more boring fire trail section first, camping somewhere down in the valley tonight. This is because the forecast for tonight isn't great. Extremely high winds and the chance of a thunderstorm, so we're trying to avoid being somewhere in an exposed location. We'll then be climbing up the Col on the east side and onto Mount Solitary on our second day, where we should have perfect hiking conditions. However, this will no doubt be a challenging climb. We'll then camp the night on the mountain in hopefully calmer conditions, before making our way back to our starting point via the ruined castle. There's our mountain. Now the fire trail begins. The book we will be exploring this trip is Todd McGowan's Embracing Alienation. Todd McGowan is an American philosopher and professor of English at the University of Vermont. He's renowned for bringing together film and philosophy in an interesting way. And he has a book on one of my favorite filmmakers, David Lynch, that we absolutely need to check out sometime. However, in this book, McGowan looks at the concept of alienation, particularly as it relates to the self, and challenges the idea that it is a social illness to be cured. Instead, he claims, it is a necessary feature of human freedom and existence. The subtitle is Why We Shouldn't Try to Find Ourselves, which is quite the subversion of all the self-help advice we hear today around finding and being your authentic self. But McGowan's argument is that by embracing alienation, we become emancipated from this sense of incompleteness or disjointedness due to what is fundamentally a constitutive part of the human subject and the imperative for our ability to act freely. We'll dig more into that. Instead of seeking to overcome alienation, as many ideological systems promise, McGowan argues that we must embrace it to achieve a more complete existence as humans. That is, we must affirm the inherent strangeness and lack of completion that defines the human condition. Here's a little campsite alongside Lura Falls Creek. Make a start on the trail mix.
Okay, this looks familiar. So this is the track we came up last time we were here, and then we continued up to Kedumba Pass by following the fire trail up. We are going to follow this track back down to the Kedumba River, where we're going to camp for the night. Looks like this down tree is still there. Alright, looks like we're about there. And there's the Kedumba River. Like a small makeshift campsite here by the river. Let's see what else is around. Ah, this is very nice. I think we found our spot. And these trees are pretty safe in the wind, I think, so yeah, perfect.
Right, so we just finished setting up the tent. Well, everything except the fly. We'll put that on later just to let things cool down a bit. The hike today, that was a stinker. I mean, we knew that the forecast was going to be very hot, but it was a hard slog walking through those conditions. Fortunately, the strong wind kept things pretty cool, but it did mean I went through a lot of water, about 4 litres today. Fortunately, I had a lot of electrolytes as well. So the plan now, really just rest up and prepare for the big climb tomorrow. Yeah, I think we're just going to take it easy for now. It is a nice spot though. Alienation is the state of feeling foreign or disconnected from something. It's generally considered a personal or subjective feeling, although there have been attempts to contribute this to environmental causes due to us being separated for things that we consider fundamental features of the human condition. Probably the best known form of alienation is the alienation from the product or activity of our labour. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, we as workers lost control over what we made and how we made it. Before this time, artisans or craftspeople usually controlled our raw materials, tools, and had ownership of the finished product. However, in a factory setting, we control none of these. We are a cog in the machine, selling our time for a wage, whereas the product of our labour goes to someone else at the end of the day for them to make a profit. This is the essence of being alienated from our labour. But there are other forms of alienation just as prevalent. We are alienated from others. In today's social media world, we lose that deep, meaningful connection with others due to superficial online interactions and the way algorithms manipulate our behaviour. We're alienated from nature. We've lost our harmony with the environment, leading to a loss of connection and concern with the ecological systems that still drive our world. And instead, we seek to exploit it for our own temporary gain. Finally, we are alienated from ourselves. That is self-estrangement. That feeling that we are not being our authentic selves, that we have lost our values, desires, and identity. We may feel like we are being pressured to suppress our true feelings, that our public-facing persona does not reflect our true selves because we have to fit in. The way we relate to our social media presence can create a schism between ourselves and the online identity we put forward that attempts to compete in the influencer world that is designed to make the lives of everyone else look perfect. However, Todd McGowan challenges this negative view of alienation from the self. He argues that alienation is not a deviation from an original whole identity, but it's the starting point of subjectivity. Our identity is merely a secondary tent to solve this primary problem. Alienation results from a gap within our subjectivity. It is the lack of self-identity that gives the subject distance from itself, allowing us, the subject, to act otherwise. That is, to carve out a distinct and different path than what our biology, environment, or society would have us do otherwise. Or to put it another way, these outside forces lose their grip on the subject precisely because it is alienated from itself. This is what McGowan writes. The paradox of alienation is that it doesn't mark a deviation from an original identity that we once had and lost, but constitutes who we are. Alienation occurs, but it doesn't alienate us from what we once really were. Instead, alienation is primary. We are alienated in our subjectivity, and alienation persists until our death. Death is the only possible cure for it, which is one reason why we probably shouldn't try so hard to overcome it. Far from being something to rue or escape, the fact of alienation is the condition of possibility for what makes our existence worth enduring. Freedom, equality, solidarity, and our capacity for transcending our situation.
last time we were here, we came up from this track on the left, which goes down to the Kedumba camping ground. Today, we head on up to Mount Solitaire. Which way do we go? Assuming the logs piled up there mean don't go that way, so we'll try this direction. Yeah, this looks right. Already our first campsite.
The idea of an ontological contradiction refers to the world at its deepest level not being entirely coherent, but having irreconcilable forces or oppositions inherent in it. This contradiction is in the being of things, not just in our thinking about it. In this way, contradiction exists within the subject. We are never fully one with our identity, desires, or symbolic place in the world. Any personal or social claim to be perfectly unified is instead built upon a suppression of this contradiction, and thus is a temporary illusion that conflicts with the true nature of things. In psychoanalysis, Freud talks about having an internal foreigner within us that is essential to who we are. This is the unconscious. This is more who we are than the myriad of other ways we tend to think about ourselves. Our job, gender, ethnicity, political or religious beliefs. That is, our symbolic identity. We don't typically think about this unconscious as being the site of freedom, since it's not where we would deliberate on a course of action and then enact it. However, for McGowan, this is where freedom arises. The unconscious has the ability to interrupt the deterministic trajectory that would otherwise govern our existence. That is, the forces put into play when we are born and then shape us through our environment, biology, and so on. The unconscious acts as a circuit breaker that forges an alternative possibility that has no social or psychological precursor. Quick side note that the unconscious is not the same as the subconscious, the latter being a place just below awareness that is still accessible, whereas the unconscious, in psychoanalysis at least, contains our desires, impulses, and repressed memories that are outside of conscious awareness. It's because the unconscious evades our conscious control that it marks the point of the subject's freedom. We're free because of this self-division. Through the act of embracing our alienation, instead of trying to overcome it, this internal and ongoing process is transformed. McGowan writes, "The existence of the unconscious places a barrier between the subject and its situation, as well as between the subject and itself. Only alienated beings have an unconscious, but the alien status of the unconscious implies that the unconscious actually has us. We don't have it. This internal foreigner dictates how the subject acts, where it directs its concern, and what it finds compelling. The unconscious orients subjectivity as it expresses subjectivity's self-division." Alienation is the lack of self-identity. This lack of self-identity gives the subject distance from the conditions out of which it emerges. If I am not identical to myself, if I am at odds with myself, I cannot be completely determined by external forces. I mentioned symbolic identity earlier, being how we define ourselves in society through the use of language. There are various markers that we use, such as a gender, ethnicity, job title, our beliefs, that help guide us through social situations, and is what we use to find meaning when we're feeling directionless. However, we can never be fully identical with this identity, and it is this failure that is at the heart of subjectivity. According to McGowan, subjectivity comes into being as a process of alienation that divides the subject from its symbolic identity. This is because subjectivity relates to these identities from a distance. Unconscious desire occurs without reference to identity, and this creates dissonance in the subject. It is this necessary failure of the identity to provide security that has the effect of increasing our desire to find it and navigate a way out of the trauma of subjectivity. Our subjectivity is undefinable. Who we are as subject is a problem with no solution. Identity promises refuge from this problem, but the completeness it promises is fleeting and always escapes our grasp. The subject comes to the fore at the moment it finds itself as non-identical with this identity. It's when we feel we are not that thing that we recognize this foreign unconscious is who we are, and not this symbolic identity that's giving us a supposed cure for our alienation. In today's world, there's a constant need to overcome our alienation by seeking to restore a sense of connection, meaning, and authenticity we feel are missing in modern life. People join social groups, religious organizations, we engage in hobbies, travel, we take on fitness regimes and adhere to strict diets. And of course, we consume, buying the sublime object that we're promised will transform our lives and allow us to realize our true selves. These things aren't all bad per se, but they are not paths to overcoming alienation. According to McGowan, it is this encouragement to find a way out of alienation that poses the danger, not the alienation itself. The idea of alienation itself is not unbearable if you bring the right attitude to it. It is only unbearable if you believe the idea of an unalienated future is possible, but you are unable to realize this state. McGowan writes, "The lure of overcoming alienation entraps subjects in the pursuit of a false possibility that deforms their perspective on existence. Existence becomes the struggle to transcend the obstacles standing in the way of achieving happiness. Unhappiness becomes a state to flee rather than the normal state of existence. Burdened by the image of an unalienated future, one finds oneself fleeing from existence itself. In such a position, there is no possibility for finding satisfaction in the everyday variegations of one's life." Campsites here.
This is Chinaman's Gully. So it looks like a lot of campsites here. So it looks like the track along Chinaman's Gully basically ends at the cliff here. Alright, we're going to go up the final hill and we'll look for a campsite at the top. We're passing campsites now. Keeping an eye out for a good one. So another huge camping area. I think we're right on the edge of the mountain here. Maybe this is the spot. Alright, I think we're going to set up in this corner spot here. It's a nice wide open area and there's no one else around, so it's quite beautiful.
Todd McGowan's book speaks to embracing alienation from the self, from our identity and the illusion that the modern world tells us that we can find our authentic self. But I want to reflect on what this approach of embracing alienation might look like with regard to the natural world, something that is commonly considered a form of alienation. This potentially raises some interesting complications, so bear with me. Firstly, this approach would mean a shift from the ideological demand for wholeness with nature to an acknowledgement of our fundamental distance from it, at least in the modern world. It's about rejecting the fantasy of being perfectly at home in the natural world and instead embracing the freedom and responsibility that comes with our separation from it. We often hear arguments about the need to embrace nature and that we should rediscover a lost harmony that humans once had with it. Is this really realistic in our modern world, where we've adapted to city dwelling and the trappings of modernity that come with it? We often see illusions of this in consumerism, promising us a way to buy our way back to this wholeness, be it organic food, sustainable coffee, natural spring water. None of these are bad per se, but they carry with them a tokenized gesture of embracing nature that is simply not inherent in the product. There's also a good argument against natural essentialism, the notion that nature has an unchanging and morally superior essence or predetermined harmony that humans must follow. We see this a lot in gender roles and the idea of the nuclear family. We also see it brought up in arguments for the free market, that survival of the fittest explains why we have so much inequality in our society, using it to justify this inequality as a necessary and natural outcome. This appeal of the nature knows best fallacy lies in its simplistic certainty, but in reality it obscures the complexity of our ecological relations and is often used to justify social hierarchies and prevent emancipatory change. By embracing alienation with nature, we adjust our relationship with it, creating an opportunity for us to step back and observe the impact our actions have on this world. We are no longer just part of a system that will naturally adjust to anything we do. This creates an ethical responsibility to make informed and purposeful decisions in order to protect and live alongside it. We can no longer just rely on instinct. But from a hiking perspective, this approach of embracing alienation raises some interesting dilemmas. We typically think of engaging with the natural world as a way of healing with this metabolic rift. The Japanese notion of forest bathing, or shinrin-yoku, is a great example of this. If we are to embrace alienation, then we need to affirm our distance while still engaging with nature, to be cognizant that we are visitors and that our actions can have real consequences out here. This is why the leave no trace principle is so important. But even though we're outside beings here, our freedom can still be found in the gap that separates these worlds. This is in the same way that our subjectivity emerges from the gap between our unconscious and our symbolic identity. And in this way, we're back to liminality. This process is one of suspension and transformation. It's the state of being neither here nor there, neither in nature nor in the symbolic world from whence we came. We're on the threshold of finding our true place, but never able to fully settle into either space. This is the basis for transcendence from our situation and where we can find our peace. Looks like we're down off the mountain. So here's the track up to the ruined castle. We're not going to do that today because we've got a ride that'll be waiting for us shortly and don't want to be late. Several lyrebirds up on that rock there. With the cliffs around it, it's the perfect amphitheatre for projecting their sounds. Can't figure out how to get off the track. Alright, finally. We're back where we started. Quite the adventure, this one. First day, the heat and extreme winds was pretty rough. The next 2 days was perfect hiking conditions. A hike up the East Col was long and steep. It just kept going. Once you got to the top, man, what amazing views. The top of Mount Solitary itself was very interesting. Really liked the camp on the last night. Good stuff. So yeah, highly recommend it. Make sure you're fit for this one, but really good adventure.